The rain continued to pour, and the battle raged on. The sound of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of my comrades filled the air. But amidst the chaos, I couldn't stop thinking about Tongue. I couldn't help but wonder, was this the price we had to pay for freedom? Was this the cost of war? The answers didn't come, but the fight continued. We survived the day, but the scars of that battle would remain with us forever. It wasn't just the physical wounds. It was the loss of so many good men, the loss of hope, and the realization that war doesn't care about who you are or what you stand for. It takes everything and leaves only destruction in its wake. We had crossed the river, survived the battle, but at what cost? The war was far from over, and each day brought new challenges, new losses. But through it all, we kept moving forward, because that was all we could do. We were soldiers, and our duty was clear: to fight, to survive, and to never give up. This is just the beginning of the story. Many battles remain, and many more will be fought. But for now, we carry on, driven by the hope that one day, peace will return. The bullet from the heavy machine gun split into two, creating a large hole the size of a fist right on my right stomach. I looked around in confusion. "Where are you, buddy?" "Don't leave me," I whispered, clutching my hand, which was as pale as a woman's. My lips smiled, but I was terrified inside. Tears were welling up in my eyes, but as a man, I couldn't cry. I hope the power reaches my hometown soon, I thought to myself. The country will be liberated, and our dream will come true. My comrades urged me to hurry. "Go quickly, don't fall behind the unit," they said in a voice muffled by the rain. I turned back, still clutching my rifle and my bag, rushing to the riverbank of B2. We had already lost 3 men. Lung, who had left his pot and pan behind, and others who had been forced to leave their gear. GA, the mess officer, cursed, "Damn them! Tomorrow, what will we cook for you guys?" Other soldiers, including the local guerrillas, were leading our team along the riverbank. In the distance, we could hear the sound of an OAV-10 aircraft spotting our positions. They quickly called for artillery to strike, and we all ducked down. Nobody from Division 325 had managed to get into position, and there were casualties from every direction. "We didn't complete the mission today," I muttered. "We didn't even manage to get into the assembly position. The enemy has surrounded us." We dug foxholes and prepared to settle in. For the last 2 days, I had only been able to eat a handful of rice, barely enough to sustain me. The rains had flooded everything, and the supply lines were non-existent. The soldiers had to hunt for food. Rats, birds, frogs, and even fish were gathered up and eaten. We were so desperate that we even made soup out of a gecko I caught in the ruins of a bell tower hit by artillery from Lavang. It was better than nothing. The taste was sweeter than chicken broth, but we could only have a small portion. The bombs from B-52s had already ravaged the area, but they hadn't hit inside the old citadel, just outside it, where artillery shells fell continuously. Every day we grew used to the sound of shells landing. Even when we hid in the foxholes, it was hard to sleep without the constant thundering above. The enemy's snipers were active, and we had to be vigilant. The enemy had set up hidden spots to ambush us, and we needed to stay low. One of the snipers, a soldier from Putho, spoke to me as we sat side by side. "You see these rifles? These are special sniper rifles, not like the AK or CKC you've used before. These are high-precision weapons. You need to calculate the distance, temperature, air pressure, wind direction, and adjust the sights before firing." He handed me the rifle, and after a few moments of studying it, I raised the rifle to my shoulder and began to aim. "You try it," he said. I took aim and squeezed the trigger. The sound of the bullet hitting the target was satisfying, but the sniper chuckled. "Your gun is broken, man." "You missed." He then explained further, laughing. "It's not as easy as AK or CKC. These weapons need adjustments before every shot." I nodded, though I was still unsure. We had our eyes on 5 M48 tanks that had moved into position nearby. I could feel the tension as our unit was preparing to fire at them. The plan was for 5 B-40 rockets to fire almost simultaneously at the tanks, and we had to make sure to hit them. I could hear the artillery fire louder now, and it was clear that the enemy was pushing hard to hold their ground. The tanks were getting closer, and I could feel the ground shaking with every explosion. The sniper handed me the rifle again and said, "Get ready." This was it, our chance to strike. I lowered my weapon for a moment, my mind racing. The enemy's artillery continued to bombard us, and I could hear the screams of soldiers caught in the open. The battle was about to intensify. As I prepared for the final shot, a heavy explosion hit nearby, causing debris to rain down around us. I turned to the sniper one last time before leaving, but I never realized that would be the last time I'd see him. I followed the foxhole back to the artillery position where the 105mm shells were firing even more aggressively. The blasts above my head felt like the end was near, but I had to keep moving forward. My heart raced as I made my way back to the front lines, looking for my comrades. The rain was falling harder now, and my thoughts were consumed with the sounds of the battle. We had lost so much already, and I knew that more losses were inevitable. But we fought on because there was no other choice. The enemy wanted to attack our position. "You go back to A1, A2, and call for backup. We're ready to move everything to the trench. Hold the position firmly," I urged. He crouched down and moved a few steps before turning back. "Hey, can you lend me a cigarette? I promise I'll pay you back after this battle. I've been craving one all day, but no one will give me one." He scratched his head. I pretended to be annoyed. "I've done everything I could. Now you want to borrow another one?" He looked at me with hopeful eyes. "I promise. I'll pay you back after the battle. I'll go to C12 tomorrow to get some cigarettes for you." I stared at him with suspicion, but his gaze was soft and pleading, like a young girl. His hands were trembling as he clutched mine. "Okay, fine. Just half a cigarette. Deal?" He nodded eagerly and we shared the cigarette. He expertly rolled it, licking the paper before lighting it. As soon as I took a drag, there was a loud explosion from a nearby tank shell. It exploded just to the right of us, sending debris flying. I quickly ordered, "Move fast, head to C11. The enemy is attacking. Get into position." The sound of the enemy tanks approaching was deafening. "Stay sharp, they're getting closer," I warned my comrades. We were in a precarious position, surrounded by the enemy. The tanks were advancing, supported by soldiers wearing red berets. We had to fight fiercely to hold them back. The sound of the M48 tanks' tracks echoed as they rolled forward. My unit, positioned at B2, was tasked with stopping them. The tanks were getting close, but we were ready. As the enemy approached within 50 meters, we launched our counterattack. The tanks were hit by B-40 rockets, and explosions erupted in front of us. I could hear the roar of enemy machine guns and the crackle of gunfire from our side. The fighting was intense. My comrades threw grenades, and the explosions tore through the enemy lines. I watched as the tanks went up in flames and the enemy soldiers fell back. We held our ground, but it wasn't over. The enemy soldiers in the rear were preparing to counterattack. I quickly reloaded my weapon and moved through the trenches, tossing grenades to clear the way. "A1 is compromised," I shouted. "We need to hold them at A3. Don't let them break through." The fighting was chaotic, with explosions shaking the ground. I could hear the screams of the injured, but there was no time to dwell on it. We had to push forward. As I moved through the trench, I encountered one of our soldiers who had been injured. "Are you okay?" I asked, helping him to his feet. "Just a scratch," he replied, but I could see the pain in his eyes. "We need to keep moving. The enemy is pushing hard." We fought on, the battle raging around us. As the hours passed, we finally managed to push the enemy back, but not without cost. Many of our comrades had fallen. I could hear the cries of the wounded, but we couldn't stop now. The battle was far from over. Later, we found one of our mess officers who had been badly injured. He was lying on the ground, blood pouring from his wounds, but still clutching his backpack. He whispered, "You can't take our food. Don't take it from us." We tried to help him, but it was too late. He was gone. I held the backpack in my hands, feeling the weight of our loss. My heart ached, but there was no time to mourn. We had to keep fighting. As we moved on, the smoke from the battle still hung thick in the air. We knew this would be a long fight, but we would endure. We had no choice. Defending the 12.7mm artillery position at B1, the ground shook, signaling reinforcements for a while. Then the position was compromised. A shell hit, causing the artillery and guns to be thrown back, with casualties in the second battle. There were only 4 of us left, and I asked to retreat. The vehicle commander agreed. I handed a C-12 rifle to the sniper, but he had already fallen earlier. A grenade exploded, taking half of his head, and his weapon was twisted and bent, lying next to me. I covered his body with his camouflage tarp and headed down to the war post, where the giant meat grinder of war awaited. These were the early days of the campaign, but I always hoped for a day of peace. The rainforest rains stayed, making me hate those jungle rains. The machine gunner groaned from malaria, and we had been living on wild spinach, boiled bamboo shoots, and the same rations for days. Everyone looked pale and thin, their bodies like dried banana leaves. I didn't want anything more except the scent of rice straw from the plains. I dreamed of catching crabs and having my mother cook them with tamarind and rice. Mother, when will the country reunify? When will we be together again? I dreamed of a new rice season, hoping that victory would not be far away. A soldier's life is a debt to the country, and I would never ignore it. Sitting in the sun, yet feeling the rain on my back, with my clothes and gear soaking, I covered my comrade with a blanket, his lips turning purple from the cold. I gave him 2 spoonfuls of powdered milk mixed with rainwater. I've lived till now, remembering my comrades who died so I could live. In the last battle, 16 comrades had fallen. I looked at the burned body of a comrade, unrecognizable, and my heart ached. C cried, but the battle was far from over. The American troops had no idea what was coming. They thought they were professionals, but just after a few minutes of battle, their soldiers called for air support, which ended up harming them as much as us. I could hear their radio calls, but it was clear. They were scared. We were already preparing to fight them with our AKs. The Americans, thinking they were tough with their tall, white faces, didn't stand a chance. Our soldiers knew how to fight in the jungle better than they did. Every time they tried to retreat, we followed. There was no way they could escape. The last part of the battle wiped out their position, leaving nothing but ashes and smoke. The Americans had no idea how to deal with us. After the battle, we raided their supply caches, cans of food, cigarettes, and wine. It was a momentary victory. We didn't care much for the supplies. We had learned long ago to survive off the land, even though we didn't have much. After the conflict, we continued to track the enemy's movements. It was clear they were trying to sabotage our transport routes. Our mission was to root out every trace of them. We had to be quick, and I led my team through the jungle, ensuring no one lost sight of the objective. As we moved closer to their stronghold, the rain fell harder, soaking everything, but we couldn't afford to stop. By nightfall, the enemy was near, and we had them surrounded. The orders were clear: no mercy, no prisoners. We moved in, taking every precaution. They were trying to escape, but we were prepared. The night was tense, and every soldier knew the importance of staying focused. The jungle, thick and dark, offered no escape. I was sitting, disassembling my AR-15, lubricating it. It was a spoils of war. AR-15s were prized weapons, small caliber, firing very quickly, and it didn't make much noise, but the impact was powerful. As I reached out to grab the oil, the platoon leader 14 walked in. Comrade Kwai, excuse me, report. We've found traces of possible enemy activity near the river, about 4 kilometers away, hidden under some stones. I've sent reconnaissance to check it out and bring back what they find, requesting further instructions from you. He handed me some cigarette butts, 2 empty cans, and a piece of gauze with dried blood. I found it odd and asked, "What do you think about this?" "Comrade, I'm not sure, but I think it's from the Lai tribe. The day before yesterday, villagers mentioned hearing helicopters over the creek. Very fast, and then they disappeared. 2 days later, a wild boar trap was triggered, but with no animal, just some blood. These items, I believe, are from that." I stood up, pondering. "Helicopters, huh? Very fast and disappeared? Sounds like airdrop operations. Have there been any updates on their movements?" "Comrade, there has been no sign of our reconnaissance teams for the past 3 days. The Commando teams have been inactive after heavy losses from previous battles. It's been suspiciously quiet for 2 months now." Suddenly, my reconnaissance team rushed in, drenched like drowned rats. One of them, suffering from malaria, had to stay behind. The others were eager to go, but were told to stay. Stay back, we'll be back soon. I could see the heavy rain was making things difficult. The soldiers were moving fast, the clouds darkening, signaling an impending heavy battle with the American Commando teams. I gave the order for a full encirclement of the area, while we proceeded carefully. We were about 4 kilometers from the Bat Cave, and we needed to be cautious. It was a densely forested area, with thousands of bats flying in and out. From the top of the trees, you could see the cave far off. We kept our movement silent, only hearing the sound of the rain pounding on our helmets. I signaled to my team to hold their positions, keeping about 10 meters of distance. As we advanced, we began hearing noises ahead. I stopped and sneezed to signal my team to stop, ready for a fight. The enemy seemed to be moving towards us, and we kept our distance, making no noise. The tension in the air was palpable. I ordered the team to move forward, avoiding any direct confrontation unless necessary. We finally discovered a blood trail on the leaves, confirming that the enemy was very close. I didn't want to rush, as I wanted to lure them into the open, where we could have the advantage. The enemy's tactics were clear. They wanted to disrupt our transport routes and gather intel, but they had been using helicopter airdrops. I decided to wait for them to make a move before we acted. Later, we closed in on their position, and I saw that they had set up camp on higher ground, where they could easily observe their surroundings. They were cautious, not making any fires, and used small, portable stoves to heat canned food. Our team, clad in blue Chinese-made uniforms, could easily blend in with the environment, but we knew we had to be extremely careful. We were aware of their traps, mines, grenades, and other obstacles. We carefully removed them to ensure our safety before continuing to move forward. As we continued through the thick jungle, we remained vigilant. The forest was alive with the sounds of animals, and the tension remained high.